So it's finally here, the iPhone X, Apple's most expensive iPhone to date, but is the souped up and redesigned flagship worth shelling out for? Welcome back to Byte Review. Here's my thoughts and impressions of Apple's new iPhone X. My first impressions of the X really come down to the build. This phone is immaculately put together, and in my opinion it's one of the best looking phones out there. Even with that notch on the top of the screen, it reminds me of the first time I held a curved Galaxy device, and it just makes me think, wow. Saying that though, and I've heard a few other tech reviewers say this, but the iPhone X almost feels like a model rather than the actual phone, and people I handed the phone to felt the same. I know that's a kind of strange thing to say, but it's true. From the chrome around the edges to the glass on the front and back, this phone feels like a proof of concept, something you'd see on a computer screen and not particularly in real life. It's a slightly curious thing to hold, and ultimately I guess it just feels more delicate than any device I've ever used. The screen is easily the best it's ever been on an iPhone, finally making that leap to a 2K OLED panel, supplied by Samsung no less. Despite that, Apple say they designed this screen in-house, and it is a fantastic panel. Colours don't pop quite as much as the Galaxy equivalent, but they stay more natural, which is pretty fitting for iOS. I noticed it's easily the brightest screen too, and the curved edges create a wonderful sense of immersion, until you hit that notch of course. So how much does the notch affect the phone? Well, it's definitely strange, but you'd be surprised how quickly it melts into the overall experience. After about an hour of use, I'd actually stopped noticing it at all. Apple apps have already been updated to work with the cutout, and I'm sure developers will update their apps accordingly to accommodate. Let's hope it just doesn't take as long as it did when the 6 came out. The only time when the notch really rears its ugly head is when you're watching videos in landscape, which either gives you a smaller screen with two large black bars either side, or the kind of ugly notch cutout effect. While full screen viewing pulls you in for a more immersive look, you'll want to watch things with those bars if you want to see the whole picture. Don't let the bigger screen size of 5.8 inches fool you though. You're not getting an iPhone Plus experience here. The screen is taller and narrower on the X, and the experience is much more akin to a standard iPhone size. One of the bigger design shakeups is the removal of the home button and Touch ID along with it. Swiping up from the bottom of the screen is a new way of quitting apps or returning to the home screen, and switching apps is done by half swiping up and selecting another app, or swiping along the bottom of the phone. It's a bit fiddly and weird to begin with, but again you do get quite used to it relatively quickly. The removal of Touch ID paves the way for Apple's new face authenticator, Face ID. I actually didn't get a chance to test this out, but from what I've watched and read online it seems pretty good. At its best it opens without you even realising, and at its worst it gets you to punch in your passcode after 2 seconds of it not working. I imagine this will only get better with time, in a similar fashion to how Touch ID did. And then there are an emoji, which are a bit silly off the bat, but I think they're an interesting advancement for AR and facial recognition stuff. But for now we are stuck with monkey faces. In terms of the camera, you could argue that the iPhone 7 series fell behind the strong Android competition over the last year. However, it looks like Apple has upped the game for the 10 and the 8 actually, which has pretty much got the same camera. Photos keep that natural look that the iPhone is known for, while improving on the low light and dynamic range. Colours won't pop as much as say a Samsung phone, but the photos produced are great for a bit of editing if you're into that. Portrait mode also makes its return, and it's pretty much as good as it was for the 7 Plus. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it misses the mark, and either way it's kind of a cool feature to have regardless. Portrait mode also works its way into the selfie camera this time round, with similar results. Sometimes it's utterly convincing, and sometimes the edges really do give it away. So should you buy one? Well, I think it's actually the easiest decision Apple's ever given a consumer. You'll either want to spend this much on an iPhone or you won't. I don't see much of an in-between. The iPhone X isn't made to be a competitive product, and like I mentioned in a previous video, this is for the Apple diehards out there. The standard 8 and 8 Plus are here to take the place of regular upgrading customers who don't particularly care to have the latest and greatest gadget. So that rounds off my thoughts and initial opinions for the iPhone X. For me, while I love the iPhone 10 and I think it's a fantastic product, I'll be sticking with my S8. I still prefer the screen on here, the camera suits me well, and it's been a great phone over the past few months. Thanks for stopping by and watching this video. Let me know if you're going to get an iPhone 10 in the comments below, and leave a like on the way out if you're feeling awesome. I will see you all in the next one.